Is marriage actually supposed to be hard? Let's talk about that.
What's going on, beautiful people? I pray that you guys are blessed and highly favored. Welcome back to my channel, Kenny Speaks. Once again, we're talking about a viral video, and this one caught my attention, so let's get into it. If you've not yet subscribed, I'm trying to grow my channel, so make sure you subscribe. Join the conversation below. Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to share to help me grow my channel. So the question is marriage supposed to be hard? Now, praise be to God. I've been married for 8 years now. Been with my husband for 9. And can I be very brutally honest with you guys? My husband is Ghanaian. I am Jamaican. And I don't think just the culture difference that made things very hard. I think our what we saw growing up and our personalities really made our marriage very difficult. One, we were not raised properly when it comes to marriage. I never saw good marriage. My husband didn't see good marriage. Um, I never witnessed a long-term relationship. He didn't. I didn't witness healthy relationships. He didn't. And even the way we were brought up made things even more difficult. And so I guess a few years into our marriage, I came to the understanding that we were operating out of abusive background and abusive behavior. So we were both very abusive to one another, very verbally, physically on my part, emotionally, mentally, very abusive. So the beginning of our marriage was hard. And throughout our marriage was very, very, very hard. On top of that, my husband met me with 3 children. I was learning still how to be a mother because I was a teenage mom. And now he's married to me. He always said I had no clue what he signed up to. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so I say all that to say our start was not good. And there's a difference between chilling with someone and being boyfriend, girlfriends, and then being married. Marriage is a whole different ballgame. But to answer your question, marriage should not be hard. But when you go into it ignorantly and unhealed and unaware of what can make marriage hard, then it is hard. Well, when it came to our understanding, thank God, that we were both at fault. We did what I believe anyone can do to better their marriage if they want it to survive. We started getting counseling. We started getting mentored. We started reading books together. We started putting in the work. And let me tell you, doing the work alone is hard enough. But doing the work married with your spouse is hard. It is very difficult. Well, let me just say, the work, we've now seen the fruits of the work that we've done and the work that we're still doing, right? Me and my husband, now we're more patient with each other. We're more kind with each other. Do we still mess up? Yeah, we do. But things are much easier, much better. And we're going to listen to this TikToker right here. And one of the things that she said is something that me and my husband always talk about is when you're married, that grace that you give your colleagues, that grace that you give the stranger on the bus or the stranger on the high street, that grace that you give people you do not have a close connection with. You need to learn to transfer that grace into your home first. If you are able to compose yourself and apply self control in public, you should be able to demonstrate that with the one that you say you love, that you lay your head next to each night. And whatever you won't do think of the most dearest person to you, the most closest person to your heart. Whatever you won't do to them, don't do to your spouse. And if you catch yourself doing it, take a step back, apologize, and stop it. Marriage is not supposed to be hard, but when you go into marriage ignorantly, it will be hard. But that does not mean it cannot get better if both individuals choose to do better, choose to get the help needed, choose to work on each other, to work on self for each other and for self and for your children. Let's get into the video and watch what other people have to say. Family, let me know what you think in the comments below.
Is marriage actually supposed to be hard? Let's talk about that. Because I think we've all heard that a lot, and I think it's really harmful. Let's think about it this way. Is your relationship with your very best friend hard? Okay, so think about, if this doesn't actually happen to you, then imagine it. So think about a time when you took your kids swimming with your husband, and it was an absolute disaster. Kids are crying, he's not helping. You have all this resentment, but you're trying really hard to remember what you read about in John Gottman's book about the horsemen of the apocalypse. And so you're trying really hard to be patient, but everybody's hungry and you're trying to get sunscreen on them and you're burning and they're burning and there's one kid drowning and you're trying to get him to help, but he's ignoring you and he's on his phone and you're carrying all the bags and you're just thinking, what have I gotten myself into? And no one's happy, and you get in the car and silent treatment, and then you get home and there's a huge fight and a blow up and he storms out of the house and you're just like, this was horrible. Versus you go swimming with your best friend and her kids. So now there's double the amount of kids. And when little annoying things happen, like you forget the snacks, it just becomes funny. And instead of your husband blowing up at you because you had to go buy some snacks, it's just funny and it's fine and things happen. And she keeps reminding you that you look so beautiful, even though you're super insecure in your swimming suit because you just had a baby and your body isn't, it's a different body and you feel a little bit self-conscious, but she just tells you over and over again how wonderful you are and how much she loves you. And no kids are drowning because together you're watching both of your children and everybody has sunscreen on because you're working at this together, and together you are a great team. You laugh a lot, the kids feel loved, you're playing, you're taking pictures and making memories, and it's this wonderful experience. There's no undercurrent of stress. There's no fight when you get home. You go home feeling better about yourself. Your relationship with your best friend is stronger than ever. But isn't your husband supposed to be your best friend? Isn't he also a parent of your children? So let's change this from marriage is supposed to be hard to abusive marriages are really, really hard. Marriage should actually be the most wonderful relationship in the world because it's supposed to be a partnership. As Patricia Evans talks about, a power with dynamic, where together you're able to accomplish much more than you ever could alone. And yet, because of this abusiveness, because of the power over dynamic, when men are in secret competition with their partner, it ends up being this kind of scenario all the time. If you can relate to this, leave a comment below, tell us about it, and then head over to our podcast. This is a subject that we're discussing this week, and I think you'll find a lot of validation there. Is marriage actually supposed to be hard? Let's talk about that.
From my experience with married couples and even in my own personal life and my own marriage, I've observed something. People in general, but married couples specifically, extend grace, understanding, and kindness to outsiders more frequent and in abundance, way more than they do their own spouses. It's what I call the good china phenomenon. Remember when we were kids, our parents used to keep these special dishes for when the visitors arrived. So we reserve the goodness of us, the kind part of us, for people outside rather than our spouses. And that's normal because we're living with each other. I remember when I was single, I lived with a Congolese couple, and one day the wife broke a glass, and the husband just lost it, and he was started just complaining about how he spends a lot of time working to make some money, and the wife is just breaking things, and why are you not more careful with our stuff? These things cost money, yada yada yada. And when you fast forward a few days or a few weeks, I don't remember, I broke a plate in that house, and the husband was so concerned. You know, there was a real stark difference between the concern he showed for me versus what he showed to his wife when she broke a glass. The woman says the same thing in her video. If I had gone to the beach with my kids and my best friend versus if I go with my husband, with my best friend, even if I forgot the snacks, we would have just laughed about it. Yeah, that's true. But with your spouse, you would have been a bit more edgy and a little bit irritated about it. It would have been something like, oh, you're always forgetting things. It's me who has to think of everything in this house. The problem is that we know each other intimately. You, not my friend Johnny down the road, you know how hard I am working to make ends meet. Yeah, I am hustling, waking up late, waking up early in the morning, sleeping late at night to make the little money we have, and yet you are breaking. The fact that you know, and yet you are breaking stuff, it shows that you just don't care for me. And that's why marriage is hard, because I have to continuously be treating you as if you are an outsider, regardless of the fact that I know you. I know you. How many times have you broken glasses? How many snacks have you forgotten? And yet I must still treat you like I treat an outsider? That is hard.
Is marriage actually supposed to be hard? Let's talk about that. Because I think we've all heard that.
I really wish somebody would have told me this in my teens, because I got married at 20. And my first year of marriage, it was bad. Like, we constantly fought. We yelled at each other. We got married in September. That first Christmas, he shoved my tree over because he was angry. And I can just remember hearing people say, yeah, marriage is hard. Marriage is hard. So I stayed in that marriage for 3 more years. And it just got worse and worse, to the point, at one point, he threw a vacuum cleaner at me. He locked me in a closet, broke my camera, kicked me in the stomach after I had a miscarriage. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it never would have gotten to that point had I not been told again and again that marriage is hard. And then after that, I ended up in another abusive relationship who was worse than the first. And it was a serious relationship. We were basically married. We lived together and as husband and wife, but the vile things that man did to me and others, I won't even speak of. And I thought that, no abuse isn't okay, but I still thought, well, marriage is hard. But I'm married for the second time, and let me tell you, it's not hard. It shouldn't be hard. Life is hard in our marriage, but our marriage itself is not. We've been through some shit. We were in the middle of buying a house. It fell through due to COVID. We lived in an RV with a shitty community, like a trashy community, and our life was hard, but our marriage was great. Currently, our marriage is amazing. I have a friend who constantly says, you guys are like high schoolers. Like, it's because our marriage is easy. It's easy. Now, the woman in the previous video compares it to that of a relationship with a best friend. And it's not. Because there are different expectations in a marriage than, like, going to the beach with your best friend versus going to the beach with your significant other and your kids, right? There are different expectations. So I'm not saying we don't argue. But we know at the end of the day, it's not one of those don't go to bed angry type of deals. I can go to bed angry because I know it's going to be easy the next day. Because even fighting, it's easy. Girls, marriage, it shouldn't be hard.
Is marriage actually supposed to be hard?
No, I don't think marriage is supposed to be hard, because marriage is like you are literally living with somebody who's your best friend or who becomes your best friend. When you think of a best friend relationship, that is your safe space. That is your favorite place. That is a person you're excited to see, a person you're excited to spend time with. I think marriage is hard because, one, the stigma around marriage. Two, the unwillingness to grow and change. Three, the marriage is hard state phrase, which makes people tolerate unhappiness in marriage, and the fact that there's not a lot of expectations from man. Because I feel like if men are kind of like told from the start, like the person that you're gonna marry, you're supposed to be friends with them, and you're supposed to be close with them, and you're supposed to be thoughtful, mindful, all that good stuff, I think marriage will go smoothly for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will love being married, but I think the fact that there's so much there's so many men who don't like their wives and the way they talk about their wives, it's like one of the person that they hate. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I think boys grow up to be men who have this idea that, oh, when I marry, I know I'm not gonna like my wife, so they go in with that mindset. Let me speak from my experience. For me, getting married to my husband, one of the first things I told him, I was like, I need you to figure out how to be my friend. Because we were friends before we started dating, and then slowly I saw how he was different when we were dating, and I was like, hey, I know we're dating, but like we're still friends. So why are you treating me different? Because he was even treating me a little different. So, and then he saw that. He's very much willingness to learn, especially when I point out things. So he saw that, and he worked on it. He has worked on it, and now he can truly say that I am his best friend. He is very much excited to come home and be with me and spend time with me and things like that. And like when we're around each other, we're just very playful, just have a great time together. So I think it's a matter of just become friends. Marriage is not supposed to be a prison sentence. It's not, but it is for a lot of people, and it sucks because
Is marriage actually supposed to be hard? Let's talk about that, because I think we've all heard that a lot, and I think it's really harmful.
Now, this is just personal observation, but I've noticed that 9 times out of 10, the sentence marriage is hard is spoken from the mouths of 2 types of people. Partners who are trying to gaslight themselves into staying in a bad situation, and abusers who are trying to get out of taking accountability for their unacceptable behavior. Now, I've seen that last one happen in a minimum of 3 relationships, one of those 3 being my most recent one, because I can still hear my now ex barking at me, well, this is how long-term relationships work. Not every day is going to be like a vacation. Now, that was ridiculous for a minimum of 3 reasons. The first was he was saying that at roughly the 6 or 7 month mark. And aside from the fact that statistically speaking, the honeymoon phase is still happening at 6 months, I mean, really? 6 months is long term. And 2, this was in response to me wanting some kind of accountability for some very hurtful behavior on his part. And 3, the absolute audacity of this man, a man who hadn't had a relationship last more than a year since college, explaining to me, the one who was in a 15-year relationship, how long-term relationships work. And the good thing about having that 15-year relationship under my belt is that even though I was knee-deep in the gaslighting at that point, I knew that what he was saying had no weight. Because throughout those entire 15 years, I had somebody who was consistently loving and kind and selfless and considering. And while I never said that phrase, the only time where I might have said marriage is hard was at the very end, when it was becoming undeniable that we had grown into 2 incompatible adults who wanted vastly different things out of life, but I wasn't ready to let go of the relationship yet. And that's not even getting into the everyday must be a vacation straw manning. Now, this is not me saying that relationships don't take effort and consideration and communication, and that relationships mean you never make mistakes. Much like what the original creator talks about when it comes to the ease of our healthy friendships, I would think about the friends in my life. There have been times where a friend has inadvertently hurt me, and I felt like I was able to say, hey, that thing you did or said hurt me, made me feel invalidated, and so on. It was always a good conversation held in good faith. A far cry from a man who sees me getting hurt as a challenge to his ego and, oh, well, we can't have that. Honestly, if I had a dime for every time the words that came out of their mouth were, marriage is hard, but what they're really saying is, I got married to a toddler in an adult person's suit.